So have you guys heard this story that there is some anonymous donor who supposedly gave like a bunch of money? I want to say it's like $130 million or something to the Department of Defense so that they could pay the military salaries during this government shutdown. Putting aside for a minute the math on that, 130 million, what's it gonna get every member of the military? Like, I don't know, one McDonald's Happy Meal or something? I don't know. But putting that aside for a minute, I want to talk about the constitutionality of this because it's not legal. You can donate money to the government, but you can't dictate how the money is used. And the president can't spend that money either. Not legally, not constitutionally. And I know we're talking about Trump here, so the law and the Constitution doesn't really matter. But you know, part of my thing here on this channel is I want to educate people about how our laws and Constitution have worked up until Trump became president, how they're supposed to work. I know people like to dismiss that and say, well, it doesn't matter because he doesn't follow the law anymore. I know, but we should at least understand how he's violating it. Okay, so it's important to understand this stuff. At least I think so. Anyway, a president can't spend any fucking money legally unless it's been appropriated by Congress. So just because some anonymous donor gives a bunch of money to the federal government, wanting that money to be used for whatever purpose, here it's to pay the salary of the military during the shutdown, but whatever it is, you know, lots of people have pet issues. You know, you can't just donate money so that the government will spend more money on your pet issue. You can't do that. You donate to the money to the federal government, whatever you want it to go to, it doesn't go to that. It just goes straight into the federal treasury. And the president can't spend a fucking dime of it unless the Congress appropriates it, gives the president authority to spend it for whatever. And think about if it were otherwise. And by the way, not that they watch this channel, but I don't want to give them any ideas if they hadn't thought about this already. But think about if it were legal to do that. If people could just donate money to the federal government and then the president could use it without an appropriation from Congress. He could just spend it however he wants. Well, then he could essentially run the government without Congress. Why do I need money from Congress? I can get money from private donors, all these piece of shit companies who are funding my ballroom. Or I can get funding from foreign countries. I could have dictatorships in the Middle East give me money. Hey man, they're throwing planes at me. I'll just shake them down for some money. They give me money, and they'll help me fund ICE. Or if I want to beef up ICE, make it more a personal army in service of me, I can, just go and shake down some people, get more money. He could do whatever he wanted. He would be completely outside the Constitution, which is where he wants to be anyway. Which is why I say, I hope I'm not giving him any ideas here. But they don't watch this channel anyway. If they did, I'd probably be in a prison camp in El Salvador by now anyway. So I'm pretty sure they don't watch. But I mean, there's apparently no shortage of people and countries and companies willing to give this piece of shit criminal as much money as he wants. So if he were able to do it, and honestly, if he wanted to do it, who would stop him? The only way to stop him is to impeach and remove him from office. Sorry, guys, and I've been telling you from the beginning. People try to come up with all these other ways, trying to look for special, magical provisions of the Constitution that nobody discovered yet as a way to remove. There's no special way to remove this guy. Ultimately, if the Congress will not impeach and remove a president for his violations of the law, then there's nothing we could do. But anyway, if he were to do this, if he were to go to Qatar and get, $100 billion and then use it however he wants. And maybe Vlad, because Vlad would love to destroy this country. Maybe Vlad gives him a bunch of money. Maybe China gives him a bunch of money, whatever. And then he can just fund the government. He could do whatever the fuck he wanted because he doesn't need to go through Congress anymore. He just completely ignore Congress. Fuck, you guys do whatever the hell you want. I don't really care. I got plenty of money coming in, and I'll just decide how it's going to be spent. I'll decide what this federal government's going to do. I'm the president. Did you hear him the other day? He was answering questions about the ballroom. He was saying this specifically with respect to the ballroom, but I'm sure he believes this with respect to anything. He was talking about the permit process. How quick can I get this thing built? He said to his people. What kind of red tape? How long is it going to take to start building this ballroom? And they said, sir. It was one of the sir stories, So it probably didn't happen, but it's a window into his thinking because he said, sure, well, you can start tomorrow, sir. There's no requirements. You're president of the United States. You can do whatever you want. That was the point he was making. He's the president of the United States. He could do whatever he wants. Now, I'm sure he doesn't believe that is limited to building ridiculous fucking ballrooms. I'm sure he believes that to mean he can literally do whatever he wants for any reason, in any context, on any issue, at any time. And maybe one day, Russ will put, old Russ vote, and J.D. Vance will whisper in his ear and Stephen Miller and said, you know what, sir? Why do we have to go through Congress for money anymore? Why don't we just go to the Qataris or Russia or China or whoever? Or Jeff Bezos, he'll give us money, and the Google guys, they'll give us money. Mark Zuckerberg, he'll give us money. They've all been giving us money. So why don't we just go to them and get a whole bunch of fucking money, and then we can just run our own unconstitutional shadow government out of the White House without Congress at all? Why don't we just do that? Maybe that's coming. I don't know. But there really is. Oh, and I remember, this is sort of off the point here. I remember being attacked viciously by a bunch of fucking MAGAs during Trump's first term. Because remember when Steve Bannon was prosecuted and then he was pardoned? Well, he started this charity, right, nonprofit, with this other guy named Brian Calfage, I think his name was. Don't think he got a pardon. Anyway, the two of them set up this Build the Wall nonprofit. And the whole thing was, we're going to raise money. This is when Trump was shutting down the government, trying to get money to build his fucking wall, right? So they said, hey, why don't we set up a nonprofit and we'll solicit money. We'll say, hey, you give us money and we'll take all that money, we'll bundle all those donations up, and then we'll give it to the federal government. We'll give it to Trump, and then he can use it to build the wall. And I remember a bunch of MAGAs were all over social media. They were so fucking happy. They're like, I'm sending money for this. I'm sending money. Definitely, we got to build a wall. Let's send them money. And I was like, you fucking idiots. That's a scam. That's not legal, right? You can give Steve Bannon money, and he can give that money to the federal government. But Trump can't use it to build the fucking wall because that's not legal. It still would have to be appropriated by Congress. You would just be donating money to the Treasury, but you can't dictate how that money is spent. And Trump can't dictate how that money is spent. Only Congress can. I said, this is a fucking scam. This is a way for Steve Bannon and this other guy to raise money and then skim a whole bunch off the top and put it in their pockets, which is exactly what they were doing, and they got indicted for it, which is why Donald Trump needed to pardon Steve Bannon. So anyway, it just goes to that whole issue about not being able to donate money to the government and then the president being able to spend it. No, still got to go through Congress. At least that's how it's supposed to work. And maybe Donald Trump will just decide, you know what, that's a pretty good idea. I saw this Romano guy on YouTube. And he gave me a really good idea. And by the way, lock him up and send him to El Salvador. Anyway, who knows? But thanks for watching. Talk to you again soon.